Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Optitrack Live Link tutorial series for Unreal Engine. In the last episode, we covered an integral part of setting up a tracked character in Unreal Engine. If you haven't followed the steps yet from that video, please go back and watch that to make sure everything is set up properly for this video. We will now be going over retargeting in Unreal Engine onto metahumans. For this video, I did a scan of my head using Reality Scan, an app by Epic Games on your phone that you can find on the App Store or Google Play Store. This allowed me to export a mesh of my scan into Blender, where I cleaned up some of the vertices and converted my head mesh into one to be used for metahumans. This process is not entirely important for retargeting to your metahuman, but it can be important if you are doing real-time facial capture as well, which we'll be covering in the next video. But for this video, let's go ahead and get started on retargeting to metahumans. First, be sure that you have created a metahuman and have one in your level. You'll need to enable the metahuman plugins from the project settings found here. You may also need to enable metahuman core data within your Unreal Engine instance within the Epic Games launcher. Be sure to do that, restart the engine, and you should be good to go. One more thing before we get retargeting. By default, the 7-segment model in Motive has some slight curvature in its lower spine. This curvature actually gets compounded when retargeting, causing the target character's spine to bend inward abnormally sometimes. The fix for this is to enable straight spines in the skeleton creation settings within Motive. This will remove that curvature, making a better retarget. This feature is a part of Motive 3.5 currently, so be sure to be on the latest version to get this update. If you can't, you can also fix this issue with a bit of a workaround inside Unreal Engine, where your IK rigs have goals on the spine chain matching the motion of the spine across skeletons within the retarget. Finally, let's get started. Last video allowed us to get actor animation in so that we can now retarget to our metahuman. In the Optitrack Live Link content folder, we have an IK rig for each skeletal mesh that you can use as the source for your retarget. You should at least have a base skeletal mesh for your metahuman, and from there you can right-click it and create an IK rig. And then I'm going to change the name of this. I'm going to say IK_MH_Jacob. Within this IK rig asset, you should be able to quickly automate creating your retarget chains and your goals. What we're going to do is we're going to click auto create retarget chains, click auto create IK, and now everything should be working properly. So we can click one of the goals and we can move them and see that the hand is moving along with the body. The one thing that we're going to want to add to this, if you want to go up and find the spine, and we're going to click the last bone in the spine chain, right click it and click new IK goal, and then assign goal. From here, you can save and close this asset as we will be using it now. One thing I want to point out quickly about the IK rig here is that if you're using custom characters to try to retarget to rather than metahumans, you'll have to create an IK rig for those custom characters and set them up to match the Motive avatar's IK rig. You don't need to have the same exact bone naming conventions as Unreal Engine, but it does help to auto-create some of this stuff. Create a new IK retargeter asset in the content browser by right-clicking, going to Animation, Retargeting, and IK Retargeter. Name it and open it. Select the Optitrack avatar that we are using as the source mesh and IK rig. Next, for the default target IK rig, we're going to select the IK rig that we just made. Back in the retargeter asset, go ahead and add the default ops if they have not been made for you already. We'll need to turn off the retarget for now and set up the alignment of our bones for both characters. Currently, you can see that the hands are tilting down, and even the green lines here are in an A pose rather than a T pose. And we want both skeletal meshes to match a pose, which will go with the T pose. So if we go to the hierarchy here and then click target and then stop running the retarget, we're able to click this auto align button and then click align all bones. And as we can see, now the poses are aligned, and we can click this editing retarget pose again, click save, and then keep this open, but we can move on from here. You can always make adjustments to the pose further if you need to. We will come back and fine-tune the retarget later to make sure our data output is as refined as possible. I want to pause here for a second to mention something that's really important when retargeting in Unreal Engine. Within Unreal Engine, we use this IK rig relationship to run the retarget. However, the skeletal mesh that we are using inside the Optitrack IK rig is not the exact scale of the incoming data. The skeletal mesh is using a static scale, while the incoming data is adjusting the scale of the mesh in real time, but only in the level viewport, not the asset itself. Therefore, the retargeter asset doesn't really match one-to-one because it doesn't know what's being used. However, it is close and will give us a reasonable result for this video. The best way to make this correct is to create a scaled mesh override of our Motive avatar, which is using the scaled data from LiveLink. In order to get this, you have to do it in Mocap Manager, but unfortunately we will be showing that in a future video. Stay tuned and await that video to get the most perfect results. For now, let's get a view of some of the animation. Create an animation blueprint for the metahuman using its skeleton, and name this to match your naming conventions. Now, open it in the animation graph, right-click, and add a retarget pose from mesh node. Click the node, and in its details, select the retarget asset that we just made. And then we'll drag the pins to the output pose. Compile and return back to the level. Add your metahuman to the scene and nest it under your Optitrack avatar. Make sure to select none when given a prompt. Now, add this animation blueprint back to the metahuman on the body skeletal mesh component. Now, you can add a new component, which will be the live link skeletal animation component. And now, we've got tracking. You're basically done at this point, but you'll need to review your animation data, preferably a ROM take or something with a lot of good joint movement. Then, you'll need to make adjustments to the retarget to try and get your animation data lined up as best as you can. There are plenty of settings to mess with here, so just go ahead and click through them to see what works best. So for this next section, I kind of just walk through my process of retargeting, so feel free to use this as an example to see how you can best fit your retarget, because not all retargets are the same. The first thing I normally do is I go into blend to source translation and I set this to 1 for the pelvis so that the pelvis is connected to each other. Then for the retarget goals, because my metahuman should match the scale pretty closely to the motive avatar data, I will go into all of the goals actually, and I'll say blend to source as 1 for them, and then even the spine, I think I'll do blend to source as 1 so that everything is aligned here. Another thing that I want to point out is the legs right now. The legs are, let's put this into unlit so we can see them a little better. The legs aren't matching up properly because they're bent. So what I'll want to do is I can go into the FK chains, scroll down to the legs down here, and then I'm going to change the translation mode to orient and scale, so that way they are aligned with each other. And if you kind of look, you can see the mesh is deforming a little bit back here. Now, although that may look somewhat correct, I don't want it to deform so much, so I'm going to change the translation alpha here to 0.6. That way it's not deforming nearly as much. And now we can see that the animation overall is matched. So if I put this back into lit mode and then I click play, you can see that our animation is aligned. After all is modified and done, you should have a metahuman that is tracking with professional level quality. So I just wanted to point out something I found when testing. If you happen to be having this weird issue where your hands are folding in on themselves for your metahuman, then what you need to do is go into your IK rig for your metahuman. And for us, we actually auto-created the retarget chains and IK rig. So I added in these metacarpal retarget chains that we don't need. So we can go through and see anything down here that says metacarpal on it, we can just go ahead and delete. And if I save, see, it fixed the hand. Real-time retargeting in practice takes a lot of time. It really depends on what you're trying to capture, whether it be one-to-one hand contact or just general motion. Whatever the case, the options here should suit your needs best. In the next video, we will be going over adding facial capture to this metahuman to get a fully refined digital double. Thanks so much for watching this video, and be sure to look out for our next videos. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.